the Nietzschean point, a man can suffer anyhow if he has a good enough why, whatever that saying is. That's not the exact quote, but it's if there is a nobility to your suffering, then the suffering switches. It becomes this thing that is no longer ailing you, that you're a victim of, but a part of your noble triumph. And it's what gives your achievements weight.
Ethan and Jason. Now this is podcasting.
3, 2, 1. Welcome, friends and family. Good morning. It's morning for us.
So we'll say good morning to you.
It's morning to us. We'll say good morning to you. I hope you're doing well. It's a fine Monday morning for us.
Nice and cool today.
Nice and cool today on a June Monday morning. Unusual.
Yeah.
What now? What's happening now? It's cold outside. Remember when it was global warming? When I was a kid, it was global warming, and now that the globe isn't warming, it's climate change.
So anything is bad.
Yeah, any change at all is bad. So you can you
can attribute anything.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, that's a genius.
It is a good move.
It's a good move. My wife is
hat tip to you, environmentalists.
Hat tip
for profit.
Yes, for profit.
What episode was that we talked about that in depth? Is it Bountiful Planet? We got into the environmental.
Yeah,
thing?
Bountiful Planet. I think we got more focused on the overpopulation thing, but I've talked in detail on Maximum Alert about
environmental stuff,
about the environmental scam, like the way that they move money around with that kind of stuff.
That's right. Yeah. One of the episodes I researched for you was about that green stuff.
Yeah, guys, good morning. Welcome to Work Hard. My name is Ethan. With me, Jason.
I'm here.
He's here. We are. We're plugging along. I hope you guys are also plugging along. I hope you guys are having a good one. I am on week 3. I think this is week 3, or I don't even remember anymore.
Of bedtime routine?
Bro, I'm exhausted.
All right.
The bedtime routine, actually, so we got the bedtime routine under control now, such that at least Abigail can go into her room and lay down by herself, and then I sit in her rocking chair outside of her room.
Yeah.
And just stare at the door. And if she opens the door, I go back to bed.
Go back to bed.
And she'll go sit back.
He's still there.
Yeah. And so now it takes about 20 minutes of that before she'll lay down and go to sleep. So that's actually fine. Not bad. But that's my wife. So I got sick in the middle of the bedtime routine. That was brutal. Then my wife got sick last week. So
on top of being hyper pregnant.
On top of being mega pregnant, and I'm going to get her to change her Instagram name to that because mine's Mega Threat. Should make her
Mega Pregnant?
Mega Pregnant.
Mega Preggers.
Yeah. When your wife goes down, when your wife gets sick, it's way worse than when you get sick, I think. It's so much more exhausting. I would take being sick myself 1,000,000 times 1,000,000 over her being sick.
Yeah.
Because the whole house gets derailed. You know, like if I get sick,
nothing gets done.
Yeah, if I get sick, it's just like job tasks start to fall behind. I don't get to the gym, like that kind of stuff happens. But if the wife goes down, no more food. No more laundry.
The food gets awfully simple.
This food gets off. Everybody's
instant
mac and cheese, beef and rice, lots of McDonald's, lots of pizzas involved.
Not good for the energy levels.
No.
So if you subsist on that normally, trust us that if you do put in 25% more effort and 25% more into your budget for food,
just get some eggs in there at least.
You'll feel so much better.
Yeah, so much better.
Because when you're on that and you come back to the bachelor way of living, you go, oh my goodness, how did I ever get in? It's no wonder I did nothing but play video games when I was single.
When I was in my bachelor days, though, all I did was work in a kitchen and lift.
Okay.
So I was moving around all the time.
Yeah.
But I would just eat. I would eat food from whatever restaurant I was working at. Mm-hmm. I would just find like a base, like a rice or whatever. When I was working at that like fancy Japanese place, I'd come home with all of like our leftover food. My roommates
loved it,
bro. Loved it. They would not complain if I like didn't pay a bill. Like if I was like late on my share of the electric bill, they'd be like, "Don't worry about it."
Yeah. Just don't quit your job.
Yeah.
No, my sister worked at Starbucks for a while.
Yeah.
And would bring home all the snack boxes and whatnot.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, that I think we had other. Oh, I know my in-laws. We lived with my in-laws for a little while, for a year.
Yeah.
And they both worked at the same retirement facility kitchen. And so they'd bring home just stacks and stacks of leftovers from the kitchen. So not like prime food necessarily. It's retirement level food.
Right.
But it was stuff they made.
Yeah.
So they did have a lot of say in what got made or how it got made. So it was a tier above cafeteria for sure.
Okay, that's good.
It was better.
Yeah. I was bringing home like fresh, never frozen, prime Japanese style like.
Okay, we never had that level.
All like the stuff I was bringing home was like, this chicken never had a grain.
Yeah.
It ate only bugs, and we never froze it. It was like stuff that I was like, one of the reasons why when we were harvesting chickens at your house, like almost immediately, like I just like naturally slotted into just like walking around helping everybody butcher the chicken.
Yeah.
It's because I've done that 400 times.
Yeah.
Like so many times I've taken a living chicken and prepared it for that night for the restaurant. Not a living chicken. That's actually
but a very recently dead non-frozen
chicken. That came in like
guts and everything.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
We got it. It was alive this morning.
Yeah.
It was alive in Japan yesterday. And so I was bringing like that home, and so that was like, dude, that was the body was fueled. The body was fueled on some like perfectly seasoned sushi rice.
Yeah.
Beautiful bed of like perfectly moist sesame oil sushi rice with just like a big old slopping heap of like panko fried like specialty like acorn fed only pork, and I'd have like 3 of them coming home every night. My boys would wake up
to eat it.
Yeah, oh yeah, but they'd get out of bed and be like, "Oh, Ethan's home. Yes, dude, let's go." And we would just sit there silently, just shoveling food.
Yeah,
throw all the boxes and everything away, and just go to bed, not say anything to each other. I would just come in. They'd wake up from the smell of me coming in, and I'd be covered in like nasty water and all, the life of a lowly,
all the kitchen stuff.
Yeah, of a lowly line cook, like not a ranking member of the kitchen. So I had to like always do the. Once I got done butchering the meat and like cooking and stuff, I'd have to go back and do all the dishes and everything. But I'd come in stinking of. It's such a bad smell, bro. Kitchen guy smell is such a
rough,
disgusting smell. And they would not care at all. They would just sit there right next to me, just and then that was it.
Free,
that would be like
high quality food. Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. My wife hit me with bro. So she's tired, right? I'm tired, she's tired. And she's been last night we were talking about, I don't remember how we got on this. But basically the conversation flowed to we were talking about being interested when my daughter is older, hearing from her what her first memory will be.
Okay.
Because it seems like she's in the phase now where she's definitely going to remember some of this stuff.
Yeah.
And yesterday she described an event to my wife perfectly of when she was like 1.
Really?
Yeah, that she remembers. She remembers.
Crazy.
Yeah, and so we're like, certainly she's got to have some memories.
Yeah.
And then we started talking about our first memory. I told my wife my first memory was when I was like 6 months old. It doesn't matter. It's not part of the story. But so my wife, I tell my story. That's what I remember. It's my first memory. And I'm laying in bed. I turn over and I'm getting ready to go to sleep. I have my eyes closed, and it's probably like maybe 2 minutes of silence in the dark. We're going to bed, noise machine on, everything. And my wife goes, "I don't remember my first memory." Dude, I took off my sleeping gear. I set up and I looked at her and I went, "What?" And she goes, "I don't remember my first memory." And I was like,
obviously.
Like I didn't even, it took me so long to get out. I was like, wait, what? Emily, your first memory is just whichever one that you remember. It's not possible to not remember your first memory. Go to what's the first one you remember. That's it. That's your first memory. And she was like, "Oh." You're right. She starts laughing. And I was like, "All right, I'm going to bed. I can't do this anymore." That was tough. Sometimes you got a girl brain out, though.
You want to get into the Rex for today?
Yeah, dude, let's do it.
All right. If you're new here, this is the section of the show called Between the Couch Cushions, where we delve into our memories of great media, either video games, music, movies, and books that are 20 plus years old. Hopefully, you guys can go and check some of these things out and enjoy something that's not in the same vein as all the slop that's being produced today.
Yes.
At least until we're able to produce something good for you to watch besides this.
Yeah, hopefully this year.
Yeah.
Yes, mine is...
We're both going with a GameCube.
A GameCube game.
Yeah.
Mine is Star Fox Adventures. All right? This game is slow, okay? There's entire sequences where you're just on a ladder, and it's just dunk, 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 like that, all right? But longer. He's just climbing a ladder.
Thanks for not doing the whole thing.
You're welcome. Dunk, 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 dunk. So it's just good. It's just, but it's slow. It looks amazing. It was back when like Halo, the first Halo came out, and those blues and greens were so rich.
Yeah.
And it was like everything was like a
vibrant,
blue,
huge.
Yes. And so there's no like huge landscapes, right? All the levels are really contained.
Tight.
Yeah, they're really tight, but all the colors are really amazing, and the lighting, it's pre-dynamic lighting in video games, so all the lighting is done by hand. So there was an artist.
Snap.
Yeah, but that's how all games used to be.
Yeah.
Like an artist decided, no, the light needs to be here for it to look good. Whereas now it's all automated.
Gotcha.
Right? They put a light source.
Right. This is where the lights, and then it would fill the room.
And the game generates, based on whatever. So the lighting, I mean, I think that there are times where that can be beautiful. I think the lighting in Hunt and Showdown is amazing. It's a great example, but Crytek is like, they're in their own lane. You cannot take the normal gaming world today and be like, oh yeah, Crytek does it well. You're like, all right, well that's not, Crytek is not a gaming company. That's an art studio. Like that's
okay.
They're
Gotcha.
Phenomenal. They did Crysis. They made
next
Crysis
level
games.
Next level.
Yes,
I never played it. I know of it.
Okay, the Crysis games are out of this world, bro. But
okay.
anyways, Star Fox.
Artists with a gaming license.
Yeah, artists with the combat is really slow, and it's just slow. So it's the opposite of today, which I think in many respects, a lot of the games today that know how to speed up the pacing. That's fine. That's great. I think that's cool. Keeps you, it's a video game. It's supposed to. Why am I sitting here watching? I don't have all the time in the world. I have a job. Let's get this game moving.
Okay.
But if you go into like a game like Star Fox knowing I'm doing this to basically meditate,
okay,
then it's a different, I'm
different
doing this to
mindset
sit
for that
here
game.
and look at these colors and get a little frustrated, and it's hard and like, so it's a good game. I don't remember the story at all. I have no idea if it's good, but I remember being little. I remember being like, however, I was just young. I remember being like 5 or 6 or however old I was, and watching people play it and playing it myself, and being like, wow, it looks so cool. Like all the crystals and the like. There's an area one area in my mind stands out very explicitly as being very like blue and green, and there's like a baby dinosaur. There's crystals, a pool of water, ancient statue, just moss everywhere. Very sick. The lighting is so well done. So that's my rec. Star Fox, you're probably not going to beat it. You're going to play it for a second. You can find it for free, like on some ROM, whatever. You play it for an hour or two, you'll get it. You'll be like, okay, this is cool. I like this. This is fun. And then as soon as you get bored, you can turn it off. I don't think it's like one of those things you have to like.
You've got to play the entire thing.
Yeah, this is part of the canon in video gaming. You have to know how it ends. Like you can just play it until you get bored, turn it off, never play it again. I think it's
Go and experience it.
Yeah.
All right, my recommendation is Metroid Prime.
We're talking.
The Metroid series is pretty well known, so I probably don't have. Do they have anything recent?
I would at least explain what it is.
Okay, Metroid Prime. It spanned multiple platforms. There's Game Boy, there's handheld stuff, and there's console stuff for Nintendo. The main character that you play as is named Samus Aran, and she is like a fully encased battle suit. One arm is a giant cannon, which transforms as well to like fire missile. There's like a missile mode and like your regular energy mode, which you can also power up. I guess she's probably most well known to our audiences now from being in Super Smash Brothers. You'll know who Samus Aran is. But this is like a full adventure game. If you play Metroid games on the handheld, it's all platform stuff. It's side-scrolling platform stuff. This, I think, is much more artistic. The music is phenomenal, like almost cinematic.
Insane.
Yeah. Here, the intro music.
Yeah,
just
hit
to
him
give you
with
guys a sample. I pulled up the intro to Metroid Prime.
Put it up. Oh! Bro.
So at the beginning of this game,
I will say, dude, get in some sort of like get in like a old Saab like wagon or something.
Yeah.
Late night on the highway, light a cigarette, turn that on. Woo! That's an evening. That's an evening right there.
In this game, Samus Aran receives a distress signal to this planet.
Are you going to tell the whole story right now?
I'm going to try to just set it up.
Okay.
Basically, you respond to this ship. Mm-hmm. You discover that it's her nemesis are a race called the Space Pirates. And they run like horrible experiments on natural creatures. And there's an element that they use to basically mutate them, like some sort of nuclear stuff. And I'm blanking on the name now.
I don't remember either.
It's going to bug me now. Anyway, so you have to fight all the creatures that they make and the modifications they do on themselves. So there's different kinds of space pirates that you fight. You're going through like their old ship that's obviously wrecked from something that they created that went wrong. So it's a lab. Yeah. It's a lab ship that you're crawling through and discovering like injured space pirates along the way. So they do a really good job of leading you up to and making you anticipate and fear whatever is coming.
Yeah.
It's not just like, oh, you come here and you fight this creature who appears out of nowhere. It's like there's signs, and you can also scan stuff along the way, read their data logs, and figure out what's been going on with them.
Yes.
You're like looking over their research as you go along. Things are jumping out at you. Panels are falling off the ship. At the end of that, you basically have to go down. You're in some sort of explosion. Your power suit loses like all of its abilities, basically, except for the basic energy beam.
Yeah.
So you have to go down to the planet after that and recollect and build your suit back up. There's different sections of the planet. There's like a jungle section and like an ice section and underground like a lava section, and you upgrade your suit as you go. Also, the main villain is Ridley, who is like this dragon-like creature, and you get glimpses of him here and there. It's almost like a suspense movie, a thriller movie.
Did you just tell us what the beast is that they made?
He transcends multiple games.
Oh, okay.
Ridley is like Bowser to Mario.
Okay.
It's like Samus fights Ridley.
Okay.
The space pirates are like what you battle through to get to Ridley, more or less.
Okay.
Ridley's not a friend of the space pirates, as far as I'm aware.
Okay.
Anyway, but you get hints as to what you're working up to throughout the whole game, and it's just beautiful scenery.
Yeah.
Really cool. There's kind of puzzles along the way, areas you can't access unless you upgrade your suit to a certain way. Really nifty. Very exciting to get a new upgrade to your suit.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
That's it. Metroid Prime. Check out. They made a Metroid Prime 2, which was more or less the same game, but with like a dark and light energy. I didn't like it as much. Metroid Prime was much more beautiful to look at.
Yeah.
So I would go with the original, but Metroid Prime 2 was good as well.
Yeah.
And I'm sure an upgrade to the graphics in some ways.
Sick.
Anyway, let's get on to the main topic today.
Main topic, dude.
We had an email.
Another fan question. See, there are people who listen to this.
There are people who listen, and there are people who give us feedback besides angry comments. People who
got really mad at the gay thing.
Shocking.
On TikTok, they got really mad.
They didn't like that we were criticizing, or that we were not even criticizing, pointing out that there's damaging effects to.
We didn't even
gay activities.
In the one where everybody got upset, the only negative thing that all I said was that whatever the stupid food delivery service is, Postmates. I said DoorDash. It was actually
Postmates.
I said
in 2023 they had a bottom-friendly diet.
Yeah, they had a bottom-friendly diet, and then you just went, ugh, sick. That was it. That was the only negative thing we said, and they got all hot. Whatever.
Hey, stop.
But it did give me an opportunity
Relax.
to tell a bunch of homosexuals that they have gay AIDS, which is very fun. So,
there is that. There's the inflammatory statement.
Yeah, there it was.
They can get mad at
but
that.
it's very similar to the you know that these people are wrong and know that they're wrong in their souls because they're so self-conscious about it. It's the same Jewish people will like Warhammer 40K. Do you know much about Warhammer 40K?
Nothing.
It's just a whole thing, but in the lore, there's this race called the Tyranids, which are these like disgusting, chitinous bug creatures that just like harvest everything and like assume its power and like mutate themselves. And it's a hive mind, so there's only one real like thinking Tyranid, and they all work for it. And no one has ever said anything. No one has ever been like, yeah, it's just like the Jews, the Tyranids. Yeah. No one has ever said that. And then like last year, 2 years ago, Warhammer 40K got into the zeitgeist and people were talking about it a bunch. And there were all these Jewish people being like, well, you mean the anti-Semitic Warhammer 40K that depicts Jews as bugs? And everyone was like, what are you talking about? Like, why are you think you're a bug? That's what you think. So anytime you see a bug, somebody like drawing a picture of a bug, like, what is that, me? No. What is wrong with you? It's like the same.
Well, that reminds me of the far less subtle Harry Potter.
The goblins, dude.
The goblins with big noses.
Goblins. Yes, bro. Yeah. Was anybody really?
That was a little more on the nose.
That was a little bit more, yeah. Well, on the nose. There you go. It was on the big Junos.
You heard it here, not first.
Yeah. It's kind of an old tried and true.
Heard it repeated here.
Yeah. All right, Jason, read us this email, please.
All right. Hello, gentlemen. I have a suggestion for a podcast episode. How should biblical Christian men deal with mental health issues, particularly depression, which a lot of men struggle with these days? In our modern day, there's an extreme on either side. Either coddle oneself with self-help gurus. I feel like I'm saying that really. Gurus, thank you.
You're welcome.
Gurus. and self-pity, or just stoically suppress your issues and view emotions as weakness? How should a good Christian man avoid both these pitfalls? Thank you for the work you do. God bless.
God bless.
What a nice email.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate that.
Well, I think probably like the answer to so many things, the answer is somewhere in the middle.
Right, which I think that's kind of how I love how that question is worded, because it leads us to, it's a bit of a leading question, which is fine because it's leading us to the answer we were going to give anyways.
Yeah, we totally knew the answer before the email just
100%.
slow pitched it to us.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, I mean, I think that it is in the middle. So I think that there's a couple ways you can break down this question, and I think for the sake of making this, entertaining and something worth listening to, not necessarily worth listening to, but it's going to keep you entertained. I think that we can top load the practical stuff that I think you can do that's not really, neither Jason nor I are qualified to dig into it, and it's not...
Yeah, first of all, this is not medical advice. Neither one of us are psychologists or anything like that.
Yeah.
This is speaking out of personal experience and the biblical knowledge that we have at the time we recorded this episode.
Yeah. So here's what I...
By the way, not to interject, but please hit the subscribe button and like it. Share it if you find this podcast useful.
Yeah.
Okay? That's how we grow. This won't see many more people just by it being on the internet. So we appreciate it. Anyway, take it away, Ethan.
Thanks, bud.
Train of thought.
Yeah.
I'll find a way of just flashing it on the screen.
Yes, thank you. What was I saying? Oh yeah. So listen, I think there's a couple. If you've got depression, all right, there's a couple ways to look at it. One, I think it's important to evaluate whether or not you have some serious malfunction. Okay, if you've got something happened to you, you were molested or beaten or something grotesque like that, and your soul is begging you to seek repair, that's going to be well outside of the scope of anyone like Jason or I is going to be. There's no practice there's no mindset shift. There's nothing. That's a problem that needs professional.
Yeah, there's no habits to integrate that would necessarily.
Yeah, you're fighting an uphill battle
that.
No matter what.
Not to say it wouldn't help. So that's not to say that these things we say wouldn't be helpful. I don't think they'd be damaging, but it
difficult to implement.
Might not be enough. It'd be a drop in the bucket.
Yeah, it might not be enough, and it's going to be you're going to find yourself being able to maintain some of this stuff for 2 weeks, and then it's going to fall apart, and you're going to end up feeling worse at the end of it because you're like, I can't even do these basic things. So my advice to you would be to seek a psychotherapist, preferably a psychologist or someone with a licensed clinical social worker, someone like that. That's an LCSW. So if you go to like Therapy Today, you can go find an LCSW or a psychologist. They're in short supply, so you're probably going to have to dig. And then someone, I would recommend that you don't want to do like talk therapy, because that's how you can get into this like brooding on your problems endlessly and making them worse.
So the cheap therapy of today, where you just need someone to talk to,
yeah,
and that's all it is.
Yeah, like going to like a counselor or something like that. Like that's not what you need. You need the big guns. If something really traumatic happened, you need the big guns. So you need to go to a psychotherapist who has some sort of discipline that they use that can actually get down into the parts of your psyche that have been ruptured and stitch them back together. And that's things like EMDR, brain spotting. There's another one that I can't remember the name of, but EMDR and brain spotting are super duper effective with that kind of stuff. You can cure like schizophrenia with brain spotting. People that have very significant, very serious auditory and visual hallucinations, they can't decipher between reality
and what's just popping off in their head.
You can cure that with brain spotting.
Okay.
It's an extremely useful tool. You do need to understand that you are starting to meddle in parts of the human psyche that we as humans do not understand. And so it's nowhere near, I think, as dangerous as becoming like a psychonaut and doing like acid and mescaline and stuff. I don't think it's anywhere near as dangerous as that.
I know that's very popular now.
It's very popular to do it yourself. I think that I'm not saying go do this. All right. I think that we need a lot more time to figure this out, but
Don't be
they
the guinea
are
pig.
using some of these low grade hallucinogens in clinical settings where you're with a psychologist, you're with a doctor, you go to these clinics for multiple days, you go stay there.
Okay. So it's intensive.
It's intensive. They do all kinds of like talk therapy around this stuff, other kind of stuff, and then they put you in one of these states that's monitored by medical professionals, and they assist you through it. Not saying that that's a good idea. I don't know. I do know they've used it successfully on people with PTSD and addiction to cure those issues.
Okay.
I'm not recommending that. I'm just saying.
But do not go off and just start taking
please
hallucinogens in a desperate attempt to fix yourself. I think you're probably more likely to open yourself up to spiritual.
You're going to make it way worse, okay? I mean, I'll tell you, look up...
you're going to meet demons.
What's his name? Oh, my gosh. What is his name? There's a bodybuilder. His name has a C in it somewhere. Just look up bodybuilder, ayahuasca, went crazy. You'll find it. He went to South America and did ayahuasca with the shamans or whatever, came back completely fractured, and then started in his psychosis, in his drug-induced psychosis, started microdosing ayahuasca or something like that.
Is it Connor Murphy?
Yep, Connor Murphy. Thank you. Connor Murphy now lives like in Taiwan or like in Thailand or something. I don't know. He lives in some Asian country. And he has these huge sunken-in eyes with these deep rivets, and he's insane.
Oh, no.
He just got, dude, he was way too pretty, and he made these videos of like being at the gym and girls being like, holy crap, like being like blushing around him. It was too much for a human mind to bear.
Okay.
So he's like, his ego is insanely inflated. And then he goes, I'm the man. I'm going to go to South America and become a superhero, and gets nuked by ayahuasca, comes back and is saying the most insane stuff, goes missing. He's in Austin. There's a law enforcement authorities looking for him, like crazy stuff. And this dude's just done. He's gone. It's over. And there is no coming back for him. That's just it. It's just done. So don't play with that stuff, man. That's extremely dangerous. That is not the answer.
So what we are going to be dealing with today, at our level of experience, I think is maybe more appropriately called apathy than clinical depression. Would you say?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think you can even get clinical depression from just. I think that there's research out there. The last time I was digging into this kind of stuff was when I was dealing with this.
Okay.
Years ago, and I think there's research out there that says that it's like if a girl breaks up with you, and you're in high school, and you're just too young for that to happen. You're not psychically ready for you to have sex
to be
with
rejected
to
like
have
that.
sex with her. First of all,
gotcha.
Right, that's a huge problem. You have sex with her, then you guys break up. You are not designed for that to occur. That's not supposed to happen.
Yeah. So in case sex is,
let me finish.
Sorry, go ahead.
If your peace gets violated in some way, and it's not necessarily, it doesn't have to be traumatic. If it gets violated in some way, a girl breaks up with you, you get in a car accident, which I guess is kind of traumatic. But if you get sad for long enough, that imbalance locks into your head.
Gotcha. It just becomes
your state.
That's your
so
norm.
you have to get yourself out of that, which I think a lot of the stuff we're going to talk about today, if that's you, this can help.
Okay.
But if you're so that's what I kind of want to do. I want to bifurcate this, where it's like if you have real trauma in your life, you need to go seek the help of a medical professional that knows what to do. I would advise it to be a man. I don't necessarily. The guy that helped me out was not a believer. I don't think you need to. I don't think it needs to be a Christian. I would recommend that it's a man that specializes in men's mental health. My guy was. And so I would just recommend that. If you're a guy, if you're a girl, go do the opposite. Go with the girl and focus on that. But you do need to. You are dabbling in powers none of us will ever be able to grasp. Your subconscious mind is the most powerful thing that exists outside of God. A human subconscious mind outside of the creator of the universe, the human subconscious mind is the most powerful thing. And you cannot start poking that bear without the guidance of someone who has the training and experience to make sure that you don't make yourself worse. And they're going to just have tools. Like I said, EMDR and brain spotting are phenomenal tools to help people, totally reverse extreme afflictions. So that's one thing, all right? That's their world. If that's you, you can, I guess you can listen to this if you want, but you could also, it may even be safer for you to just turn this off and just go to Therapy Today or whatever that website is and go find a therapist. If you suspect that that's you, all right, there are a lot of people who have some sort of traumatic experience when they're a child and they don't remember. If you suspect that that's you, again, listen to this, try to take from it what you can, but you need to go, your only path out is serious professional help. That's it. And so there's no further advice we can give you there. For those of you who are just predisposed to being neurotic, for those of you who are suffering the affliction of modernity and you have internalized a lot of the messaging of today, hopelessness, that kind of stuff, this I think we can...
Angst and a hyper focus on yourself.
Yeah, we can
very inward navel gazing kind of
mentality. Brooding is
to spend a lot of time on your emotions instead of action. Is not helpful.
Not, and it's here's what I would say. Here's how I'll start saying this. The question I think that was asked originally is a great beginning, is a great first observation, which is that in the modern era, the advice you get is like Andrew Tate. What's the guy I talk about all the time? What is his name? The black guy that runs. Stay hard. All you got to do is stay hard. What is that guy's name?
I think you always just describe him that way.
Runner man, Navy SEAL boy, Mr. I'm going to do it. Whatever. Jocko Willink is the other guy. Oh gosh, what is this guy's name? Whatever, it doesn't matter.
He's a
black guy.
Navy SEAL? He's Navy SEAL?
Yeah. Look up black guy Navy SEAL runner. Look up that. Crap, now I'm totally derailed.
David Goggins?
Yep, David Goggins. Thank you. Like the David Goggins world, and listen, there are a lot of guys out there that are like that are, apparently David Goggins works for them. Great. I'm happy for that. I would imagine those guys are suffering from their own version of manic depression. That's what I think that is. But whatever. That's neither here nor there. That is one way, and the other way is this like Freudian, you must indulge.
Every thought that flits through your head is valid.
It's valid.
The whole the vocabulary of the left, where it's like we got to validate and affirm, and we've got to feminize everything and talk about it and just feel those feelings. That's the other ditch that he described.
Right. Yes. Yeah, and so so
you got the stoic warrior and the beta male groveling, just in the slough of despond is how the slough of despond from Pilgrim's Progress.
Yes. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah.
Is a great analogy for that.
Yes.
It's a bog, and you will never get out of it without help.
Never.
The more you struggle, the deeper you sink in it.
Yeah.
It's not a way out.
No. So here's what I'll say. Here's how I'll start this. You're 100% right. It's a middle ground. If you're a man, all right, your brain is designed to compartmentalize things. And one of the reasons God made us to do that is so that we can endure temporarily very high levels of stress.
Yeah, great hardships.
Yeah.
Why you can be in battle, why men can be in battle, have their friend get shot in the head right next to them and continue fighting.
Right.
They might like blank, be upset for a second and then just turn back to the enemy and keep firing, as opposed to just wallowing and diving on the body and go, what shall we do? And get killed themselves and lose the battle because you had one guy get shot. Right.
And so you need to understand that in your head exists a bunch of different boxes. And the normal immediate male response to bad things is to go, all right, I'm going to put that in a box.
We'll deal with that later.
We'll deal with that in a second. I got to get this situation resolved first, and then we'll deal with that. But then what happens is, very often, there's no return to the box. You just keep the box there. Okay?
Got a big old fat storage unit full of boxes we haven't opened.
Yep. And that's where I think you can start to get this sense of depression, malaise, is you have quite a few boxes.
The cost of that storage unit's going to add up after a while.
Yes. Yeah.
It'll weigh you down. You're like, where's all my money going?
Right.
Storage.
Yes. Yeah. And so where women, I think, are more predisposed to this wallowing, sort of brooding type of getting caught in their depression, like that's how women get locked into depression, is just never letting it go. I think men do the opposite, where it is never letting it go, but it just sits.
Because it's not properly dealt with.
Yeah.
You need to get the box out and sort through it and go, why is this box here?
Yeah. Yeah, and so
keep what you need, throw the rest away, or whatever.
Yeah, so I think the men are also very solution focused. All right, so there's two things that I think need to occur here. One, when you open the box, when you face whatever is causing this depression, and this is emotionally, so I want to kind of bifurcate this further. So another thing you can go get your hormones checked. All right, if you have a vitamin D deficiency, if you're an inside guy like I am, you need to get outside for like 15 minutes a day in the sun, or take a vitamin D supplement. You may be suffering another ailment of modernity, which is that there's microplastics in your balls, and there's all sorts of endocrine disruptors in your blood, and things are really messing with your hormones. And so your test can be really low. All right, I'm on TRT. If your test is low, for like $100 a month, you can go get TRT. Again, medical professional, go talk to them about that. Figure that out on your own. We are not.
Yeah, just things to look into.
Yeah, but
that may or may not be affecting you.
Yeah, and one of the things, none of those may be a problem, right? You may get those checked out, but your levels are all fine and clear, and you look good physically. But if you're a sit-at-home guy, that inertia creates a feedback loop in your body. Your soul just says, "We're a sit-at-home guy. Time to get sad." And so what you need to do is incorporate some movement in your life. A lot of people, it's almost cliche at this point to say go lift weights, but that is extremely helpful for men. That alone, going and lifting, will create. I have known many guys. I've heard about many guys. I've seen this for a while. This is probably the easiest thing you can start doing to radically alter your predisposition.
Specifically lifting, or are you talking about any physical activity?
I think specifically lifting.
Okay.
Because I know this guy.
Exercise of muscles, not in a cardio fashion. You're talking about more.
Yeah, I think that there's just something about the male psyche that sees you get physically stronger. Mm-hmm. I think that there's something more constructive about that than getting better at fighting. So like this guy I know does some stuff. You know, I know I'm going to try to be as vague as possible here.
Okay.
But I know this guy, I know he moves at least a little bit. I mean, I've been there.
Yeah.
I've been there with him. I know he moves. I don't know that he lifts. And so I would say I have found when I've shifted away from lifting, because I was a very serious lifter all the way through high school and college, when I shifted away from that and into fighting, I did not see the same sort of psychic sort of leveling up when I was fighting.
Okay.
And now that I'm back to lifting, it's very
different.
Very different. It's very different. So I would recommend lifting. I'm not going to, I think every guy should, go spend a year doing some boxing or whatever. I think that's just good for you. It's going to help you if you're scared, if you've got any sort of insecurities, whatever, that's going to help you too. And it's a fun sport. It's cool, whatever. But I think lifting in and of itself has something, there's some element to it that makes it better. So I would recommend that. And that doesn't have to be crazy. All right. I got a family member who's making some radical changes in his physical health.
Yeah.
And he and I have been talking back and forth for a while about it. He's been asking me lots of questions. And my recommendation to him is go get a Planet Fitness membership for $10 a month. Okay, it's super cheap. I know it's Planet Fitness. It's gay. Whatever. Who cares?
They have weights there.
They have weights there. It's just a tool. You don't have to.
They're the ones like for everybody, right? That's
they have like
gym.
pizza days, and there's a longer
yeah,
arm.
okay.
And,
that's what I thought.
Yeah.
It's an entry point.
It's an entry point.
So good for them.
Cheap.
Making an entry point.
Yeah.
It doesn't. No, I mean low. Yeah, low bar.
Yeah, low bar.
You get in the door. There's access to weights.
Yeah. Get in there. Get the bar underneath, or get underneath. Okay, here's a big thing. Here's a really big one. Okay, you have to use the dumbbell or the barbell. Okay, I'm sorry. There is so much, even amongst bodybuilders who are big and like cool and know how to do it. There is so much avoiding the barbell.
Okay.
All right. There are a few technologies that humanity has come across that we perfected. There is no getting better. There is no, you can vary it. And so it's just like, oh, this variation does this other specific thing, but there's no improving. Okay?
Okay.
Guns, barbells, flat top grills. All right? These are the technologies we've perfected. Okay? There's no, the barbell, dude, please.
Comment below if you disagree with Ethan.
You're wrong, but yeah.
And he'll argue with you.
Yeah.
But I would like to see it, though.
I'll call you gay and argue with you. Just please. All right. Here's what you can do. Very simple. 30 minutes. Military press, standing military press. You stand, you get the barbell up on the rack. Okay. You walk up to it. It's at shoulder height. You pick it up off the rack. You push it over your head like this. You do that 5 to 8 times, 3 reps. Or 3 sets, okay? You put it back down. You get all the way under it. You put it across your shoulders. You stand up with it so it's on your shoulders. You squat. 5 to 8 reps, 3 sets, okay? Then you take it. You put the barbell down on the ground. You lean over it so that if you pick it up, it comes right up to your chest. You row it. Row it like this. 3 sets, 5 to 8 reps, all right? Then you take the barbell. You put it on all the way on the ground. You squat down over it. You grab it. You can grab it like this so that one hand is palm out, one hand's palm in. You get them a little bit of eye-like, shoulder length apart. You pick it up just stand up with it. All right, that's a deadlift. Okay, do that unweighted. No weight on the bar. All right, now go to YouTube. Look at each one of those lifts. There's plenty of videos of people explaining how to do that. The deadlift can be dangerous. The squat can be dangerous. So you want to learn how to do them before you put weight on the bar.
Yeah. Get your technique down with no weight on it, right?
Yeah.
Figure out the movement before you put weight on yourself.
Yeah. Then and do that for a week. All right. It's going to take 30 minutes. Just get in there, do it out 2 times. All right. That's what I want. I want you in there 2 times for that week, 30 minutes apiece. Get those done out of the gym. Okay. That week, homework is I'm looking at videos. I'm learning how to squat. I'm learning how to press. I'm learning how to pull. That's what you're doing. All right. Then next week, I want you to put a little weight on it. I want you to do it 3 times. All right. I want you in the gym 3 times with a little bit of weight on there. Okay. And then just keep going from there. Stay in 3 days a week. That's what I go. 3 days a week is a great number. You can go full body for 3 days a week.
Recovery days
you need
in
the
between,
recovery
right?
days. Yeah. 3 days a week.
Don't overdo your muscles.
Full body for the first 6 weeks. All right. Do your research. Jeff Nippard is a great YouTube source. He gets pretty advanced pretty quick, so you can look at his push-pull full body split. He has like a playlist on YouTube that's very, very good, very beginner friendly. You'll start coming across guys you like, ways you like to work out. There's a lot of good resources out there, but just start real small, real small. It's not a big change to your life. What you are doing here is you are learning how to lift, yes, but you are teaching yourself to love lifting. That is what you are doing. You are not going to create a new habit without first loving it. And so you're teaching yourself to love the gym. Now, years removed from when I started doing that when I was in high school, in my head, I go, all right, I'm just going to go 45 minutes and I leave. I don't have time. Every time I'm there for 2 hours. Because I'm like, I got it. I could do this.
I could do a little bit more.
I do a little more, whatever. Yeah, and so it just, I love it now. So I love to do that. I love to work out. And that'll be a big shift for you. And that's pulling from that stoic warrior kind of that side of the thing. All right. So now we've got one element here.
Sure, but it's not burying it. So the stoic is not, as we're describing it, burying.
Right.
That's not stacking up the boxes and leaving them.
Yeah.
And only doing this part.
Yeah. And so you'll create a feedback loop for yourself there. Okay. And that'll wake you up and get you moving and get your blood to your muscles, and you'll start to see yourself in the mirror. You'll see your arms getting bigger and your chest is getting more round, and that'll create this like Jordan Peterson has this really phenomenal message. I mean, Jordan Peterson's done; he should retire. But back in the day, Prime Peterson was great. He has this story he talks about, or this kind of point that he makes, which is that we share the same nervous system as lobsters. So lobsters,
the lobster thing.
Yeah, the lobster thing. Lobsters and humans have the same nervous system. And if a lobster loses a fight, it gets physically smaller and retreats in on itself and goes away. But if it wins a fight, it gets bigger. It gets more endorphins in its body, more dopamine. Its nervous system starts to fire. It gets bigger. So what you're trying to do is break this negative feedback loop you have in your head. Whatever the message you have in your head of depression that's going on. I'm not good enough. I'm too weak. I'm too slow. I'm not smart enough. Whatever these messages are you have in your head that are causing you to fall into the state of depression, you're trying to break that feedback loop. So you just need to interrupt it once. You just got to throw one wrench in that gear system for it to break, and then you get to start to redesign what that messaging is. And so if you look in the mirror after 4 weeks of lifting and you notice all of a sudden you can kind of see your traps a little bit, that's a pattern interrupt. Like all of a sudden you're redesigning your own psyche to now be I'm powerful. Okay. And so that's a very, very powerful thing that you can't dismiss that. Okay. So I know that it's even a lot of the people that listen to this, I think may be apprehensive about pursuing being too much of a jock or whatever. Listen, there's a reason why those guys, they are successful in life. All right. It's because they've got this.
Why they're confident.
Yeah. Why they're very confident. They've got a very good feedback loop. Now I will say this. When I was in high school, I was tough, but I was very scared and I was very, very depressed. And, I was always charismatic, and so it was not easy to look at me and say, oh, this kid's a nerd or a dork or whatever, because I was tall and handsome and very charismatic, and I wasn't fat, so that was nice. But I was very much spiritually in my heart, I was the bookish poetry reading, writing, sort of flowery, weird kid, but I was also very depressed, and I knew somewhere along the way I figured out that I was going to have to let that go, let I'm smart, I'm cultured and know stuff, that was going to have to die for me to leave behind the depression. And so I spent a lot of time transforming into the hat backwards, dumb golden retriever style personality that I have today. And so the point that I'm making is that there's a very big difference between a jock who's just like that.
Okay.
And somebody who had to fight to be that way. They're going to have a better, more intrinsic understanding of the mechanics of being that way than a jock who just is that way naturally. Mm-hmm. So if you have a really good athlete, right? I trained with professional boxers who were performed at the most elite level, were sparring with extremely well-known athletes. And if I was on the heavy bag with them and they were doing something insane, taking a 250-pound bag and bending it in half with their right hooks. Like, you go, how do you do that? And they go, I don't know. I just do it. But if you ask the coach, who was a multi-time Mexican national champion, great boxer, not phenomenal, but had to learn how to do that.
Yeah.
And then he walks up and bends the bag like that. And then you go, how do you do that? He can go, so your foot has to be here, right?
Yeah.
Then you need to put 60% of your body weight on your front foot, 40 on your back. You need to lean, whatever, and tell you how to do it. Okay.
Right. So, walk you through it.
Yeah.
No, when I was in paramedic school, there was, in the lab section of class, they would bring in, I guess they were sort of paid, but they were professionals who were working as firefighter paramedics and paramedics out in the field currently, as opposed to our instructors, the main instructors who were only teachers. They used to work in the field and now they're full-time teachers.
Yeah.
But they would bring in people who have full-time paramedic jobs to help teach us current stuff and to provide tips that are fresher in their heads. And I'll never forget one guy. He worked for Salem Fire Department, and he was very funny. He was like more comedian than he was anything else. He was always kind of joking around, very nice guy, very friendly. And he told me, or he told a number of us, and it really impacted me because I identified with it. I was like, how am I, with my personality, going to go out there and be assertive? You walk up to a scene when you're the first one there and there's multiple people injured at a car accident. What do you do besides freeze? You can't freeze.
Right.
How do you go about doing that? How do you go about delegating? How do you develop that side of yourself? And he said that, or I guess more the question was like, can I even do that?
Yeah.
I'm not built like that.
Yeah.
I'm not built to go out and just give orders necessarily. It's a part of me that I had to develop in order to do it. And that's what he was saying. He said, I was not this way. There's a part of me that I kind of switch. There's a switch that flips, that I have to be a certain way on scene in order to be effective as a firefighter and effective as a paramedic and make decisions and have people do what I say.
Yeah.
There's people under you at a certain point, or at least who are not as senior as you, who look up to you and are waiting for you to give a cue. Say, I want you to do this, I want you to do that. You have a bigger picture in your head, and you can then delegate the tasks, and you're more of the overseer than you are actually doing hands-on tasks.
Yeah.
And so he said that's a part of me that I had to develop in order to even do this job.
Right. Yeah.
And so he had to walk through that and develop a side of himself, and that's what I had to do as well. And that was very helpful, knowing that you could reach that even though you weren't born with it like the jock would be with, he's like, I don't know, I just bend stuff.
Yeah.
Other people are just like born type A alpha personality. Yeah, I tell people that they're a born leader, and they go out and tell people to do something, and the people listen, and they just, oh yeah, well, he seems to know what he's talking about. I received an order from an alpha, I'm going to go do it.
Right.
So when you're more born a beta, how do you develop an alpha side to you to where eventually people are going to listen to what you say and like, yeah, I know, he's seemed very confident in what he was doing.
Yeah. So all of that to say, I think there's 2 points to make out of that. One is that I think Jason and I both have aspects of our personality that are pretty like commanding and charismatic, but both of us also had to grow into that in its holistic kind of vision. So we both have insight on how that works. The other thing that I want to say is that this is not it's very strange because it starts getting out of a place of depression starts with being empathetic towards yourself and kind of giving yourself a break, but then it ends with you kind of being, by the time you get to the end of it and you're not in that state anymore, the way you kind of manage it, because I do think you kind of have that monkey in your back your entire life, but the way you kind of manage it is being a little ruthless with yourself and is being like,
and then you're not allowed to go back to that place.
You're not allowed to get sad. You have too many people depending on you.
A large part of that, I think, is having people dependent on you.
Yeah. Yes.
So once you have a wife, and especially once you start having children, then the rubber hits the road, and it's no longer a theoretical, or I can coast along because I'm still living at home and have no real solid responsibilities. If I don't go to work, nobody starves.
Right.
If I don't fix this situation, this emotional situation with my children, nothing happens because I don't have those children.
Right.
So part of it only becomes real once you have the responsibilities. But I think maybe if you're in such a slough of despond that you can't even fathom taking the next step towards that responsibility, that's what we're trying to get over that hump.
Right.
So if you are a single guy, you're trying to get over that hump to even fathom being able to ask that girl out, because you know that once you do that, things start moving and you're either going to have to marry her or you're going to have to break up with her. There's no other option.
Right.
I mean, the other option, I suppose, is to bait it out and go, and let them end it.
Yeah. Which is
not what you want to do.
No.
You need to enter the relationship knowing that here's the criteria for whether I marry her or not.
Right.
And leading her.
Yeah.
And if you don't lead her, then she will either lead or leave.
Yeah.
And you don't want her to lead.
No, certainly not.
It would be worse, but it's damaging to you if she leaves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So listen, there's, this is I think one of the things that we got to consider is that this is a really big topic.
Yeah.
And there can be, a lot of different reasons why guys end up in these situations. And so it's hard to kind of throw these blanket answers to the problem of depression. And so, we need to, the best we can, we're trying to give you kind of broad strokes.
Mm-hmm.
But to try to make it more poignant, to return to this sort of this idea of boxes. Okay. You're going to have to teach yourself how to,
open and examine those boxes.
How to open and examine those boxes, what to do with the information you get from those boxes. And then once those boxes are processed, you need to take everything that you learned from opening those boxes and apply it to you moving forward, so that you don't build up a new stack of boxes.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to, once you've opened all the boxes, you've examined, you've processed, you've dealt with these emotions, which is where they're kind of starting out as a kind of a soft, empathetic, letting yourself off the hook, being gentle with yourself. That's kind of where that process takes place. And then where you're a little bit more ruthless with yourself is later on when you have built,
once you've gained some ground on
Once you've gained some ground and you've built some masculine resolve and you can emotionally handle being hard on yourself, that's where you'll be able to implement all this stuff that you've learned and keep those boxes from piling back up. I think...
So in other words, dealing with them a lot sooner
Yes.
as they come along.
Right.
Maybe it gets, like you said, put aside for a little bit, but then you open it up real soon after that. Next day, 15 minutes later, whatever the appropriate time frame is.
The kids get in
for
bed, you get a second from your wife, you walk around the corner, you burst into tears.
Say, hang on a minute.
Yeah. Wait, babe.
Yeah.
You go around the corner.
I need to go process something.
You burst into tears, you cry it out, you walk back around the corner. She goes, were you just crying? You pray.
You pray, go, God, help me through this.
Yeah. You come around the corner, she goes, were you just crying? You go, yep, for sure, I was just crying. Sometimes maybe that means the kids go down, whatever. You tell your wife, all right, sit down. I need you to sit down right here. And then you lay down next to her and you lay your head in her lap and you just burst into tears. And then she just like holds your head while you cry.
That's what she's there for.
That's what she's there for.
That's okay.
But not all, okay. You do that. You don't do that to your wife all the time. You do that occasionally.
Yeah, that's not a nightly thing. That means you probably have the trauma we were talking about earlier.
Right.
And you're the other side of the bifurcation.
Right. You need
to seek professional help.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yes.
And if you're not in a relationship yet, the time to deal with that is now. The time to deal with that is yesterday.
Yeah.
Don't let it sit.
Oh, dude, we're on it. I got it. I've been sitting here kind of stammering a little bit because I've been praying in my head while I'm talking. We're in it, baby. Yes, the Lord comes through. I'm gonna try to do this as fast as I can. Okay. Whew. Oh man, I'm going for a ride. All right. How do we do this? All right. This is it. This is the answer. Hat's got to go off. Okay, here we go. one of the great tragedies, one of the biggest problems, one of the things that makes the reason why it is okay to get indignant and angry at how poorly stories are told today is because that is how I think people in general, but men specifically, find ways to contextualize their suffering so that they have a way to process it and open the boxes and move them around and manage those boxes correctly. So if you do not have well-told stories, you will not have the capacity to do that because these concepts are abstract. They're extremely difficult to describe in practical ways. You just heard me trying to do it, floundering. Oh, you should work out. This stuff is very, very, it is well beyond my understanding, your understanding, Jason's understanding. It is the realm of God. It is his realm that we are talking about now. He has given us stories as a tool to help us process and understand ourselves and the world around us. And one of the great tragedies of the modern era, screw immigration, screw bad economies, screw over-feminized schools, all of that stuff is second to the great tragedy of men losing role models. If you cannot sit at your desk and think to yourself, what would Aragon do? What would whatever cool Western character that Clint Eastwood just played in the movie from the 60s that I just watched,
right,
what would he do? If you don't have that, you are not going to have you need a cornerstone. You need ground to stand on. You need a reference point.
You need someone to look up to.
You need someone to look up to. Now, obviously, the apex model is the model of Christ, right? Obviously, that is the default standard that everyone should be using, Christian men included. But there are elements of Christ's likeness that can be pulled out of the ether and out of Scripture and out of the intrinsic understanding that people have as part of the reality that God created. You can claw those out of the ether and put them in characters and nestle them in characters and in human archetypes. So if you do not have, if there's not, and that is another part of the reason why not having fathers, having strong fathers is so destructive, because that is a built-in role model. What would my dad do? Like, if you can't think that thought, you are woefully underprepared. If you cannot think the thought, what would my dad do right now? That is, you are in hot water. So you need to, the people of old, shout out Chris, the people of the medieval era, of pre-Renaissance, maybe Renaissance, I don't know, whatever his thing is. They had these stories. They didn't need therapy because they could look at these stories and go, this is what Odin would have done. I don't know, whatever, you know.
This is what the hero of the story does.
This is what the hero of the story that I like would have done.
Mm-hmm. And I want to be the hero of my story.
And I want to be the hero. And there is this, for men, the Nietzschean point, a man can suffer anyhow if he has a good enough why, whatever that saying is. That's not the exact quote, but it's if there is a nobility to your suffering, then the suffering switches. It becomes this thing that is no longer ailing you, that you're a victim of, but a part of your noble triumph. And it's what gives your achievements weight and this sense of overcoming is, so you start to love the pain and love the suffering, and it becomes fun. It's funny. It becomes this this is what we signed up for. Yeah, it's like a trophy. Like, I work
fuel.
Yeah. And so, here's my advice to you. Who cares about the dichotomy of stoic versus soft, whatever? Go read Lord of the Rings. Go read Lord of the Rings.
Go read Narnia.
Go read Narnia
series.
Go read the Narnia series.
Because those are both steeped so strongly in Christian storytelling, in God's storytelling, they are robbing the story of the Bible blind.
Yes.
In how they build their characters and the motivations for their characters and the battle between good and evil, which is what you and Ethan and I are all fighting.
Yes. Pick a couple historical figures that you consider that just you naturally are just like, wow, that's a cool story. Wow, that's a great man. Mine, Teddy Roosevelt, Patrick Henry. Patrick Henry, considered the Lion of the Revolution. He talked. That's what he did. And he has this moment, dude, oh my gosh. There's this moment, and so it's written, the story is written by a witness who was there. So Patrick Henry's the man. All right, Patrick Henry was this slack-jawed loser. His dad was wealthy. He had tutors and stuff that would come around, and his tutors wrote about him. This was an unremarkable kid that didn't have a care in the world. Like he didn't care about writing. He just had his rifle, and he'd go out, shoot squirrel. That's all he cared. He just wanted to play. That's all he wanted to do. He wanted to play video games. That is all he cared about. He just wanted to play video games, and he grew up. He got a wife because he was like handsome and could talk fast, and so a girl liked him. And he didn't have anything. He tried to be a shopkeeper. He tried to be like 4 or 5 different careers.
Yeah.
All failed. And then he ended up like living. He was a bartender, living above the bar with his wife. Total failure.
Yeah.
Like 35, life over. He didn't do it. Everyone was like, nah, you're not going to make it. And then he found I don't remember the exact story because it's been years since I read one of his biographies, but effectively he comes across lawyering and finds out that it's basically just taught, like he could just reason his way into whatever. So he reads a couple law books and then goes to the capital of Virginia, goes to take the bar. And back in the day, there was no you went to law school or whatever, but it was not like an official thing that you took the bar test. You just went in front of lawyers who were in charge of issuing the bar.
Okay.
And just said like, they just asked you questions, you answered, they just thought, if this guy knows. He got out and they were like, this guy has no idea what he's talking about, but he's so good at this.
Yeah.
We're just going to let him do it. And so they just let him be a lawyer. And then his very first
the good old days.
Yeah, the good old days. Yeah, back in and that's part of the reason why being a man is so depressing nowadays, is because there's so much bureaucracy that you can't just win out of sheer skill, out of sheer talent. And so it's not like
well, you're going to have to fill out form.
Yeah, when we said that you didn't have a B+, whatever. So you gotta force reality to be what you want it to be with your own masculine talent these days,
and allow God to open the right doors for you.
Really,
if God wants you to do it.
Yeah, you're going to do it. But so
there's no way around it.
Patrick Henry, his first case is like this farmer is something. There's some dispute or whatever. He goes in front of the judge. There's the other lawyer. The other lawyer's laying out the reasons, and here's the law and whatever, and Patrick Henry's just quiet. Just has no idea what to say. No idea. And so this is an account from one of the people that was in there watching the trial. Yeah. And they were like, this is embarrassing. Right? He's getting destroyed. And the guy he's defending is just like sitting there with his hand like this.
He's like, I'm finished.
Yeah, I'm done. I'm going to lose the farm. Can't believe I let this guy do this. And they're outside. All right. And so it comes time for Patrick Henry to talk, and he's quiet for forever.
You mean he has the floor and he's
got the
silent?
floor, and he sits and he's looking down. Okay. He's got his hand on like a desk or something like that. Yeah. And he's looking down, and he's looking down forever. And he looks down for so long that everyone starts being like, what's about to happen? Like it builds this suspense in the room. Yeah. And then by the account of the witnesses, he picks up his head and looks at the sky, and the clouds part. and the sun shines down on all of them, and everyone's like,
whoa.
What is about to happen? So everybody's on the edge of their seat, and he just starts talking and is just big-chested. The justice of this system is corrupt. It is not whether or not this is legal, but is it right? Is the law right? And just starts going in and everyone stands up and claps. The judge like cries. It's like everyone is like in and the judge is like, I'm gonna cuss. Looks at the other lawyers like, you get out of town. Like, this is great. We're bringing it in. That guy keeps his farm. You all get $1 billion. This is amazing. And then Patrick Henry goes on, to give the "Give me liberty or give me death" speech, which is like
one of the greatest of all time.
Dude, the transcript of that speech is insane. Like and then like the having the people witnessing it, the people that were there were like the energy in the room while he was talking. And then when he hit the "give me liberty" or "give me," like slams his hand on the thing, and they were like the power in the hand slap, like it echoed like a gunshot. Like everyone was like, and "give me liberty," smash, or "give me death," and they were just like, he was like, there was no not going to war. He was like, that was it. That was like maybe the people that wrote, the witnesses wrote, like that may be the most influential speech in history. Like it changed everything. And like everyone walked out being like, not only are we going to war, I'm going to war. Like this is like, we're fighting. And so like, and then Patrick Henry knew nothing about warfare at all. Like knew no, like nothing
Sounds
about
like
warfare.
He didn't know much about anything.
Yeah, but he went back to Virginia, got the militia, and just like showed up to Washington, was like, I'm ready to bang. Like, let's go. And
where's the boat?
Yeah. And they weren't like, there was, I don't remember exactly the details, but it was like the Virginia would like they were like, we're not going to do this.
They wouldn't have used boats.
Yeah. There was some like thing where they were like, we don't know, are we going to send the militia or not? And he just like came back and was like, are you retarded? And like went in, and they were like, all right, we're sending him.
We're sending him. Sorry, Patrick.
Yeah. And he was just, dude, Patrick Henry, one of the great guys of history. Anyways, that's a little bit of but dude, go read a biography about Patrick Henry. Read a biography about Theodore Roosevelt, who was delusional. Theodore Roosevelt had a personality disorder. He was manically depressed and delusional, and it worked. He built the Panama Canal. He might, if no one had agreed to dig it with him, he probably would have dug it himself. Like that was the kind of
the level of delusion.
Yeah, the level of like dude, he was like, they were like, hey, he showed up in Montana or Wyoming or whatever, and bought a bunch of land there, and they were like, hey, there's like bears and stuff, they're scary, and he was like, bet not. And he got in a boxing match. He was a boxer, so he fought.
Isn't he one who liked to kill like big cats, like cougars by hand, more or less?
He killed all kinds of stuff, like
knife
with a knife.
Fight cougars.
Yeah, dude, he would knife fight like vicious animals. He got in a boxing match in Harvard with like somebody
and won.
Yeah. He got in a boxing match in Harvard with like a heavyweight or something like that, and it went so long because the guy couldn't knock him out. Like the guy just couldn't break his will. It went on so long, people just got bored and left. Like he was unstoppable, and he was one of the reasons why he's one of my biggest heroes is because he's so eccentric and so like his wife used to only allow him. She would only give him like $5 in cash to leave the house because if she didn't, he was very wealthy. He's from a very, very wealthy family, and so he would just spend all of his money. And he like wrote in his diary like, it's good that she only gives me this money because if she gives me like $1,000, whatever is a significant portion of money, whatever's a lot, I'll come home at the end of the day, it's gone, and I will not remember. I will have no concept of how it left. Like I have no idea how I spent it. And
not a balanced person.
No, not a balanced person.
We're not recommending you become Teddy Roosevelt.
I am. Okay. I think that there's for a few people in the world, balance is a bad idea.
Yeah, but our audience is not a few people.
Yeah. Anyways,
This is a general audience.
yeah, this is true. This is a general audience.
Not everyone should be Teddy Roosevelt.
If you're aiming at greatness, balance is not.
Yeah, go back and listen to our episode "Burning the Boats" if you feel like you're called to greatness.
Yeah,
or or at least something very specific and crazy.
Yeah.
Go listen to the episode "Burning the Boats."
Yeah. So the you got to find a role model. Okay, you got to find a role model. It will. If you find a role model and a serious one that you like, one that you learn about, what did he do? What were his flaws? What were the things he did wrong? What are the things he did right? Dig into this guy. When you turn to look at your boxes to process your damage, the things that are causing you depression, you'll open them up. This girl broke up with me, and you'll go, what would Teddy Roosevelt do? What would he have thought about that? What would Ransom from C.S. Lewis's Space Trilogy, what would he have done? I think Ransom is a great, if you're like a nervous dork, Ransom's a great role model because the whole time
that's how he starts out.
He's a nervous dork until the very end of the series. And the answer to what would Ransom do as a nervous dork was tremble your way through the situation. Like just go until it's over. Just don't give up and just be like nervous and jittery the whole time and just keep being like, okay, I can do this. Yeah. And then
I have to do this.
Yeah, I have to do this is a good, yeah. And then it'll work out. Eventually you'll end up hitting a demon in the head with a rock and it'll all be well. But it's a really good, you gotta find a role model and that will equip you, I think, better than anything else. And I think that's a huge part of the reason why men are in such hot water today and why men are coming out of that, because I think that there are some role models today. They're not perfect. They've got a lot of flaws, but there are a couple great men in our era that people look to and are like, this is a titan of industry. This is a whatever, this guy's getting things done. And I think men are becoming more aware of that. There's an increasing level of interest in history and in real history, not the history you get taught in public school. And you get to see the Otto von something, whatever, the Prussian general or German general, I don't remember. He's one of the great whatever. He used to announce himself. So he'd walk into his other aristocratic friends' homes where she was like, so-and-so has arrived, whatever. He'd walk in without knocking. So he'd come in, there'd be no servants there to announce him. And he'd announce himself by firing a gun into their ceiling. So he'd just come in and fire a shot into the house. And they'd be like, what are you doing? He'd be like, I'm here. And like that's so like you gotta,
I'm crazy.
Yeah. I'm out of my mind. Yeah.
I'm off my meds.
Yeah. And so you got to find, but that guy was like responsible for uniting Austria or what, some great thing. And so you need to find.
We cut those figures a little slack in retrospect.
Yeah, we do, and you need to.
And same for Winston Churchill, not at all popular until World War II broke out and he saved Britain.
Debatably, but yes.
Okay. Well, he dealt with it in an aggressive way that all of the predecessors would not have, is my understanding.
Yes. Yeah.
He was necessary for that time. Not a peacetime leader, but a wartime leader.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, there's a whole Patrick Buchanan's An Unnecessary War. Very different take on that.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
It is also read some of the King Arthur stories, the Quest for the Holy Grail, whichever the one with the Lady in the Lake where he throws the sword away and the lady brings it back to him. There are not just in these stories are there role models. In these stories, especially the old ones, the good ones, the ones that are entries into the canon, there are elements and motifs and themes and tactics for dealing with your own emotions. That is why we tell these stories, is to communicate extremely complex, abstract concepts that there is no way to talk about practically in a poignant, direct way. We don't have the words for them. We do not understand them. So you read these stories. I've talked about it's okay to look away for a second in the King Arthur thing. He threw the sword away. I can't do this. And in reality itself, nature, the Lady of the Lake, brings the sword back to him. And it's like, this is your plight.
Yeah, this is your destiny.
This is your burden to bear. And at that point he picks it up, whatever. And that's one of the things that has helped me, like that. It's not necessarily that the person of King Arthur is a great role model for me. Don't know much about him. Read a couple stories about him. Seen him in a few movies. Don't know that much. But reading that part of the story was massively helpful for me in the last couple years, because I was in such a time of like, under a lot of pressure of like, I'm pushing myself as far as I possibly can and being exhausted by constantly being in a state of fear, and having a moment where I can go, okay, I can look away for a second. That's okay. I can rest. And so hitting these stories,
it's necessary not to break entirely.
Yeah. To bend and not break.
Yeah.
Hitting these stories, will give you, I've referenced this a ton of times, all the time, the story of Frodo and how it's just a story of just taking the next step and not giving in. And like, you read that, and as you read it, I think it's obviously not as powerful as reading the Bible, but it's like the same process. It's the same mechanics, where it's the act of sitting there and reading the story starts to change you psychically. And you'll walk away. You won't even realize it. But you'll walk away from it, and you'll have some new version of yourself that's been created from reading this story, from reading how this hero dealt with this issue that he had, this great problem that he suffered, whatever. And you will start to develop strategies and tools to process and deal with your own emotions. And it will give you the willpower and the discipline to face your fears and to face these issues that you have. So how does a Christian man deal with mental illness? Read the story of the crucifixion. Start there. What was that like for Christ? What was the pain that he went through? What does the Bible talk about how he felt and thought? How did he act? What did he say? What were his primary emotions, his primary actions? What went on? Read the story of David's trials. As David became king, what suffering did he get put through, and how did he deal with that? And when he was king and he suffered great tribulation, what did he do? What did he say? What did the people say to him? Pay attention to these things. Go read Lord of the Rings. Go watch, what's a good movie to watch? I mean, Lord of the Rings is a good one to watch. Go watch the old spaghetti westerns with Clint Eastwood. Hang 'em High and A Man with No Name, I think, is one of them, and Fistful of Dollars, and go watch those movies. See what he does. See how relentlessly, like, the people, there's like criminals being like, oh, I did it because I whatever. He's like, don't care, bam, like just engage. Rekindle the old ways, man. And the old ways are telling stories to each other. Get back into that. Read a couple stories, watch a couple movies, and indulge in them. Find out about them. What's the world like? Who are the people? What are the people like? Why is Aragorn so cool? What's his thing? What's the shtick here? What's going on? I think that'll be tremendously helpful. It will give you the groundwork to begin to model yourself after those men. And eventually you'll start to realize that you are like them. You're just like them. You are. you are that powerful, and you do have a little image of Christ in you, it is possible for you to tolerate the pain of your own crucifixion. That is possible. And as that message begins to take root in your psyche, depression will start to feel like a distant child's game. It won't be a serious issue that you even consider anymore. And slowly your life will reorganize itself into something that you love and into something that you, not just that you can tolerate, but that you're proud of. And I don't care about stats or whatever argument you might have against that, because it happened to me. And it seemed impossible at the start. It did not seem, even I was 26 or 27, and I remember walking around on my property once in kind of a fugue state of just very severe fear and anxiety and depression. And I already met Jason. Like this is not long ago. And I remember having the thought, either a providential message or just one that I had myself, and thinking, everything I want is so close. I'm on the cusp of having everything I want. It's so close. I can almost reach out and touch it, and all I have to do is not give up. All I have to do is stay in the pocket, to not give in to despair. And at times that seemed impossible. There was once, even, I think I talked about it on this podcast in the last year, where I threw my hands up in prayer and I said, Lord, I don't want any of this anymore. I don't want hyper premium. I don't want to be a successful person. I don't want this. Please just make the pain stop. I just want peace. That is all I want. Please just make this stop. And 6 months later, I'm here. It looks like I may not ever have to really return to work in a serious way. I've got Jason by my side now. We're I feel like growing into a pretty indomitable team. Hyper Premium is beginning to materialize. We're writing like funny, good stuff. Your life will reorganize itself if you do not give in, if you find role models, if you understand that the answers to your problem are inside of you. It is from yourself, but it's not necessarily from yourself because God put it there. God created you, and God gave you this strength, and you already have it, right? It's the faith of a mustard seed. It's already there. It's just how much you believe it. That's what matters, is how much you believe God's word. How much do you believe God loves you? How much do you believe God is all powerful and wants you to be at peace? Not necessarily wants you to have what you want, right?
Fleeting desires of the world, right, are different than what you're talking about.
He does want you to have peace. And you can have that peace if you just believe that God loves you and believes that he gave you that power and that level of agency. It's about that belief. And a great way to start to believe that is to start putting that message in your head by reading stories of great men and thinking to yourself, I'm like that. I am like that. I am funny enough to think about walking into my friend's house and firing a gun into his ceiling. Funniest thing anyone has ever done. I am that funny. I am Teddy Rose. I am strong enough to kill a cat with a knife. That's me. And I think that's where you can start. That's where you can start. And again, to make it a Christian, to put it in a Christian context, I think you start with the stories of great men from Scripture. Dive into those. Read them every day. Ask your pastor about them. That's it. That's what you can do. That's it. What's our time?
Hour 34 minutes.
I knew this one was going to go long.
A little bit.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Guys.
So, I
Yes.
think you had mentioned something a bit back about, getting back into the boxes.
Yeah.
And unpacking those. Oh, no. What it was you said, this is kind of general advice, and it's difficult for us impossible for us on a podcast setting without anyone giving us feedback as to what their actual issues are.
Yeah.
For us to give advice in any particular situations. What I'd advise for that is, and we've talked about this in the past, is finding someone to disciple you.
Yeah.
In working through the particulars of whatever you're dealing with. Again, not the highly traumatic stuff, that's something different that requires professional help, but for the day-to-day, the mundane depression, the slough of despond where you can't seem to get out of it, or something that you're just hung up on to get you over the hump, find someone, ideally your father. Next up would be someone from your church, some man who is older than you and more experienced than you, who can help walk you through, who is willing to meet you for coffee, for a meal, for phone calls on a regular basis to talk through your difficulties and help you make decisions until you are able to stand on your own 2 feet and start making those decisions yourself. So get a weightlifting routine. Start slow and build up.
Yeah.
Obviously, you should have a Bible reading and prayer life. You're not going to grow spiritually without a plan for spiritual growth. You are not going to grow if you're not in the Word. So you're not going to grow in peace without that. There's no workaround or quick, easy tip for that. It's just reading the Bible and spending time meditating on it. Think on it through your day in quiet moments. When you're commuting, when you're walking around, your lunch break, whatever, spend time deliberately not being on your phone and instead using that time to think about what you read that day, to think through your boxes, to think through your issues and to sort them and then put them away permanently, get rid of them and deal with them properly. And then also seek discipleship. Find someone you respect and want to be like. We've talked about this in respect to careers in the past. Finding skills, someone who's successful in a certain way.
Yeah.
Go and shadow them. Ask them for advice. And I think the same can be true. That will help you in your depression as well, to get past things that you haven't thought of from a certain angle because you're such a navel gazer when you don't have outside responsibilities. I think that was it. So, and if you don't have anyone in your life, if you're not going to church right now, if you need a starting point, feel free to email us.
Yeah.
We will respond to you.
Yeah, we don't have to talk about it publicly. Just email us with your specific issue.
Yeah, if you want it to be an episode that we talk about something, list that. But, and if you specifically don't want it talked about on the podcast, just say so. We won't mention it. The email is workhard@hyperpremium.co. Should also be in the show notes. But yeah, reach out to us if you don't have anyone else, but ideally find someone who you can interact with in person. That would be the best. But
yeah, by far.
By far, yes. But I'm saying for those of you who might be or feel like you're on an island of there's nobody around. I am not well read. I don't have people in history to look up to. I don't have any of these things. Shoot us an email. Okay?
Yeah.
And
please.
we'll help you to the best of our ability, at least get a starting point.
Dude,
and maybe give you advice on finding a church and starting to grow that community to where you can find an in-person discipleship. Start somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, it could be so simple, man. Like, don't be cynical. Don't be cynical. I'll wrap this up by just saying, don't be cynical. There's a Twitch streamer called Nick Merckx. All right, if you're like, I'm too whatever. If you're like totally fried TikTok brain, you can't read, dude, just go watch Nick Merckx' stream. All right, he's a super aggro jock guy that loves to play video games, and all the time he'll just say little things that are like, damn, that's just good for a young guy to just have that in his pocket. Like somebody asked, I think one of the first times I ever watched this, I just came across it during COVID because he was playing Call of Duty and I was too. And I don't watch Twitch really at all, but I'll watch, that's actually not true. I watch this one guy, but every once in a while I'll just be like, what's Nick Merckx doing? And turn it back on to see what it's like.
Yeah.
But he's just, every once in a while he'll just give these really great little nuggets. And like he hit somebody asked him about his wife once, something, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And he just said, nah, man, you got to love every inch of your partner's body. Like, he's like, if you're not about that all the way, gay, like that's soft. Like you got to be, and he words it in a way that's very aggro, sort of, like tough guy kind of thing. And so it's just, and it can be these little things. The movie Man of Steel, not a great movie. Okay. It's a DC superhero movie. It's not art, all right? But for me, there's one scene in it where Clark Kent as a kid, he gets his x-ray vision and he spazzes out and runs and hides because it's too stimulating.
Overwhelming.
Yeah, and he runs and hides and his mom has to come up to the school and knock on the door and get him to come out. She knocks on the door. She said, Clark, what's going on? And he goes, the world's just too big, Mom. The world's too big. And she goes, all right, close your eyes, listen to the sound of my voice, come out, whatever. She centers him. She gets him good. He's good to go. He learns how to, but it's just that little nugget was very big for me because I realized that in a huge part of my life, there was too much, I was too open. The things that make me very good at writing and very creative and funny and all the things that make me about myself that I like, the drawback of that is that I'm open to the unknown in a way that most people are not, and it's extremely overwhelming. And that was kind of the root of my old substance abuse issue, was deadening that, so I didn't have to just be berated with that stuff. And so that was that's a bad movie, but it's just like this little thing in there, So it's just, don't be cynical. Don't look at some guy at church and he's got a cool truck that you like and a pretty wife or whatever, and then he just kind of seems hokey. So you're just like, man, I'm not going to ask that guy. Like, dude, he has what you want. Go talk to him. Don't be cynical. Don't be above, like,
asking for help.
Yeah, don't be above watching the Avengers movie and getting something from it. Like watching Captain America just get beat up and then standing up and being like, I can do this all day. Like, let that hit you and go, oh, I could too. Like what? Just let it grow you. Don't be cynical. Like, be open to finding good life-changing pieces of information in any source, and obviously have a filter. Don't think you're going to go watch porn and find something helpful in that. Like, that's not what I'm saying, but there's obviously a line.
Some stuff is irredeemable.
Yeah. Some stuff is just irredeemable. You're not going to find anything
or
great.
So overwhelmingly bad that it will wipe out anything.
Yeah, even if there is a nugget, even if there's a kernel of good in there.
It's not worth digging for.
The sludge you're going to have to go through.
No, don't.
Most horror movies, right? You're not going to find anything good in there. It's not good. But anyways, that's just the last little thing I wanted to say. It's like the something I see in a lot of young men is being biased against action. And they'll find all kinds of reasons, excuses to say, I'm not responsible for my own life. This is someone else's fault. And one of those great ones is being so cynical, being like, this is gay and stupid and cringe. I'm not going to watch it. Whatever. You are making excuses to do nothing. That is what you are doing. You are locking yourself into your situation because it feels safe and because you don't have to expend
It's
calories.
familiar.
It's familiar.
Even if it doesn't feel safe, at least it's familiar, and that's less scary than going out and getting hurt.
Yeah, than the unknown. Yeah. All right, guys.
Stop being afraid of getting hurt.
That's it.
No excuses.
Thanks for
bearing with us all this time.
Yeah, bearing with us.
Watching.
Jason has had the amazing idea. That's a great idea. To top load some of our clips before the intro. So we'll grab something from the second half of this episode, I think, because the first half not as punchy.
Yeah.
But we'll put that up there so you guys know to watch this one all the way through. Guys, we do love you. We know that there are many of you in pain. We know that there are a lot of you that are watching this because you're in pain. And you were kind of clawing at the world to try to help. Sam Hyde, I talk about him all the time. I think in my head consciously, what would Sam Hyde do? Okay, he's been a fantastic. There's plenty of things about him. He's not a Christian, not a believer. That I think he's starting to say some stuff that makes you question that. But I know what it's like to be on the other end of this camera, is what I'm saying. And because I know what that's like, I feel a great sense of empathy and warmth and love for you. Many of you, obviously, now that there are like hundreds of you, I don't know you and never will, but that doesn't mean that I don't care about you, and I don't want you to experience the peace I've experienced. I know Jason has experienced. We do want that for you. We do love you, and we are
praying for you.
We are praying for you. So please, 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 if you are not going to church, please find a good church to attend. If you are not romantically involved with a young woman, either get yourself to a place where that's possible for you, and do that, or if it's already possible for you, many of you think it's not, and it definitely is, so that you just skip that step that I just said and come to terms with the fact that there's no excuse not to go talk to her, and you should just go talk to her. Please get yourself romantically involved with a young woman, marry her,
have some babies.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah. Have some babies, raise them, catechize them, raise them in the church as Christians. The world is your oyster. If you are a young guy, man, you have so much potential and power, even if you are stupid. Okay? There's going to be some of you that are watching this that are just dumb. Okay? You are. If that's the case, you've still got two hands. What's the UFC fighter? What's his name? The Cuban guy. What's his name? Whatever. You have a. Why? How come you're so old? The interviewers asked him something. Whatever. You did this. Whatever. How did you do this? Whatever. And he goes, "You have two hands. I have two hands. With the power of the Lord, with the power of God, you can do it with your two hands." All right. If you're dumb, you don't have a brain, you have two hands, bro.
There you go. You got two hands.
You got two hands. And if you're dumb and you don't have two hands,
hopefully you have 2 feet.
Learn how to use a straw, I guess. I don't know. Figure it out.
All right.
We love you guys. We'll see you. Bye.